I'm Jack Llewellyn with the Durango Chamber of Commerce. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. This is the first series of our Meet the Candidates Forum. We have Marsha Porter Norton joining us. The format will be a 2-minute introduction with a 3-minute close, and then interspersed, I will be asking a lot of questions, and she'll have 1 minute to answer. At 15 seconds, I will say 15, and I know this is hard with Zoom, trying to hold up a timesheet or whatever, and then I will let you know when your time is up. And all the candidates, we have the series. Jack Turner will be on the 11th, on Thursday from 11 to 12. Charlie Minkler will be on the 16th from 1 to 2, and Matt Salka will be on the 18th from 11 to 12. And you can register for all the Chamber upcoming events simply by going to durangobusiness.org. So with that, Marsha, thank you so much for joining us. Are you becoming a Zoom guru?
Thank you.
Absolutely. Pardon me?
Now?
You're cut out on my end a little.
Yeah. So I can start now?
Yeah, let's go ahead and we'll get started, and I'll start the timer. Again, you've got the 2-minute introduction, and I forgot to mention, if we have time, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat, and depending on the amount of time, I will ask possibly some of the questions at the very end. So with that, I'll start my timer, and Marsha Porter Norton, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. I think we would all prefer to be in person, but nobody expected a global pandemic to come along, and I think we're all adjusting the best we can. I am running for commissioner, as you all know, or you wouldn't be on this call. I am from District 2, which is essentially Durango and surrounding areas, but as everybody knows, you run countywide, and everybody votes in 2 commissioner races this year. I am in an uncontested primary, so you can vote for me twice if I earn your vote. Once is now, and then once is in the fall. I am a little bit about me, and then I'll go into what I have done professionally and service-wise in our community. And then I'm going to use the last 3 minutes to talk about my platform. I have a detailed platform on my website. And of course, it changes with COVID, which I will talk about. But I'm a 4th generation Southwest Colorado, and I'm very proud of that. My roots go very deep. My grandfather was actually a state senator from this area in the 1950s, so public service runs in my blood. My husband and I moved here in 1994. He's an MAI commercial real estate appraiser, has his own business. And I have my own business doing professional facilitation. I am a public issues facilitator. The reason I'm running for office is we have big challenges, and COVID has just exemplified those and underscored those even more. And I'm a proven leader. This isn't my first rodeo. I can say that because I grew up on a ranch. I have a lot of experience dealing with public issues as both a volunteer and as a public issues facilitator. So I've led and managed over 1,300 meetings working with 100 groups. I am known, and certainly didn't do it alone, for working with over 55 groups and interests to get the Hermosa Creek legislation done. And that was bipartisan. We worked with conservation groups, business groups, and ski area and recreational interests. I've worked on a land use plan, facilitated a land use plan. So I'm a proven leader. We have challenges ahead, and I look forward to your excellent questions so you can see my approach in addressing those challenges.
Great. Thank you, Marsha. So the first question, and again, we solicited questions from a variety of chamber members. And the first one, what will you do to support all businesses in the county with agriculture, natural gas, retail, and restaurants? Describe something that you would want to implement to be helpful to these struggling sectors.
First of all, to all the businesses out there, I'm a business owner, my husband's a business owner, and we've definitely been impacted by COVID as well. What I would say is that I'm so impressed, first of all, with our business community and our response to this We keep using the word unprecedented, and I think maybe it's overused, but maybe not really. These times we're living in. I think it's going to be very important as a county commissioner that we support our business community. I think we've lost something like 12% of our total jobs, 3,500 jobs lost. We're going to have to work very hard to bring all these sectors back. The one thing that I think we can do, I think it's going to get a lot of airtime on this call, is a good code. I am for a new land use code, and actually I had it copied off at Office Depot and am making my way through it so I can talk in detail. But I think diversifying our economy is very important, whether that's agriculture value-added businesses. We now have a 10 million coming into our region for forestry products. But I am for businesses safely opening and opening once, doing it right, and doing everything we can to bring businesses back. I know it's been a devastating time for a lot of people, and but I see primarily a land use code, which is how businesses interface with the county, as being crucial.
Thank you. Second question, what is your vision to make housing affordability a reality for La Plata County? And I'm going to give you 90 seconds, so go ahead.
90, oh good, 30 seconds. I said before the stay-at-home orders happened, I said at a meet and greet and fundraiser that I had, is people might get sick of me talking about affordable housing. It's one of my key priorities. It's an economic development issue, and affordable housing means many different things to many different people. Close to 50% of people in our community cannot afford to buy a home. We have a lot of good things happening. I see Lisa Bloomquist Palmer on the call with the Homes Fund, but my vision is we need a plan. Hi, Lisa. We have a really good plan that the city of Durango has put in place. It's not fully implemented yet. We have an old plan written on a document of the now somewhat in hibernation Regional Housing Authority. I'd like to pull together with the home builders and realtors and chambers and people who need housing, the governments, and get an affordable housing plan done. The county does not have its own plan. That will help define what the county role is, and I think we would look at all tools, not take anything off the table, and see what can be supported. The plan doesn't have to be 300 pages and cost a ton of money. We need to get around a table and talk, but we have to get this done. I support the work of the, all the housing organizations out there, but I also believe we need more units, and that means more rentals, more built housing, stick-built houses. And let's look at mobile homes and perhaps co-ops and tiny home villages and all of it. So we need a plan, and then we need measurement, and we need collaboration, and to work much harder in this area.
Okay, great. Thank you. So with all this, we're using broadband right now with Zoom, and everybody's doing go-to meetings. So broadband has been an important issue throughout the years, but now it's even more so. So how will you help bring in the proper broadband infrastructure to ensure rural communities have the ability to work remotely?
This is where, first of all, broadband is huge. We're seeing a really sad, in some cases, especially when it comes to education, digital divide, even within our own county, within the areas like, I have great broadband here in Durango, but I have a friend who comes into the city market parking lot and has to do business on her phone because that's where she can get the best signal. So we have got to work harder. I have attended every economic development meeting I can since announcing, and I know the La Plata Economic Development Alliance has taken this on as an important issue, as has the Southwest COG. I met with Miriam on this, and one thing I quickly realized is how, the details are very technical. So I'm not going to profess to have the answers here, but we have to advocate to the federal and state governments to get it's very expensive to take broadband to areas that have low population. And so it's going to take a public-private sector partnership. There's some words. But I think we have to advocate on every level. And because we have more and more home-based businesses, I think we have one of the highest concentrations of home-based businesses in the country. And so
15.
do this, and we've got to advocate. It takes money and it takes collaboration. I know LPA is working on it, as are a lot of private businesses, but I support it 100%. I'm a home-based worker. Before I started running for office, and even now, use broadband all the time, and we have to get it to more people.
Thank you. It's kind of interesting because public-private partnership, but now is paycheck,
Right.
PPP, PPE, and all the new acronyms, and trying to keep everything straight. But definitely public-private partnership is a must for that. And, you mentioned, I'll do a little caveat, but I know Roger Zalneritis a couple of years ago reported La Plata County ranks 18th in the nation for at-home workers. So yes. it's a big need. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit. So this question, there is so much turnover at the leadership levels of the county. And as this person said, don't you think it's interesting that we have turnover at nearly every leadership level except the county attorney's office, and our problems at the county have remained the same for 2 decades? Why do you think that is the case?
I actually think I know a full range of opinion on the fact we've had various county managers and on the county attorney's office. There is not a standard by which we can say, how do we measure up with turnover in relation to, say, Eagle County or some like-minded counties. So I think on some level, turnover is in the eye of the beholder, but we have had a lot at the county manager level, where I did 46 listening sessions when announcing that I was going to run for office. And the biggest frustration people have from all political stripes is planning. And there has been turnover there. But back to the leadership, I'm a person that looks in the forward mirror, not the backward mirror. And so I was not in the commissioner seat when these things happened. I think having a stable county manager and with a good working relationship with the county attorney is critical. And turnover relates to a lot of things. It relates to personnel issues, wages, an aging workforce. In many cases, we've had turnover in some departments because of an aging workforce. But I will do everything I can to work collaboratively with the county manager. Sometimes people move on because they're ready to retire, or they get a different or better job someplace else. You can't always control these things, but I get the concern, and it will be important. I think we have a good team in place now at the county management level, and would want to see that continue. I'm on every commissioner call I can be, and I think there's a lot of competence there.
Okay, thank you. So in a follow-up question for that, is it a conflict for the county attorney's husband to be hired in a leadership position for the county?
First of all, I get the optics of that. So whoever asked that question, I do understand there's concern, and there were some optics there, and a feeling that wasn't fair, or wherever the feeling might come from with that question. I would just note that's a decision made by the county manager. The commissioners did not make that decision. I think that one thing that I would arc to is we're at a time when trust in government is at an all-time low. It used to be that everybody just didn't trust Congress. And now, unfortunately, looking at a lot of trusted polls, it's moving down to the local level. And that is very unfortunate, because I think we get great things done on the local level when we work together, no matter of our affiliation or political stripe. So I think that decision made me realize that, trusting government is important. That said, I'm not commenting on that individual. And if I am elected, I will work with that individual to make good financial decisions in the best interest of the residents and taxpayers.
Okay, thank you. So I'll shift gears a little bit. Are you in favor of development of La Posta Road?
Absolutely. That has been looked at. Actually, in a consulting job I got a long time ago, I worked on one of the plans, the 2008 version, and I was telling Jack, great questions, by the way, folks who asked the questions. I read the La Posta area plan again, so I absolutely am. this is where the facilitator in me comes out. You have a lot of interest going on down there, including 200 property owners. You have the Animas Air Park. You know, La Posta Road isn't just one area. It's the Air Park, it's the North Coast Shack, it's the South Coast Shack. Water is headed down there. We're now just this week going to hear sewer and what it'll cost. So I am absolutely in favor of it, but there's a lot of interest there. There is existing neighborhoods. There is La Posta Road is you know, a challenging road in terms of traffic. You also have costs. It's really boiling a lot down to who benefits and who pays. But that said, I think it's a great place for light industrial. A pressing need in our county is a place for, if you want to call it a park or an area where businesses can grow. I've heard some really, really concerning stories about businesses that don't have a place to go. And so we need that. We need affordable housing, and we need just some regular housing. It's by the river trail, it's by Durango, and I'm absolutely in favor of it. I know it's a tough nut to crack. It's easy to say you're in favor of something, but then how to get it done is another story. But we need to lead and come together, and I'm tremendously excited to see the La Plata Economic Development Alliance take this on as a focus. It's going to take us all working together. It's not as simple as some of the other developments we've had in La Plata County where somebody that had access to resources could do it, such as Twin Buttes or Three Springs. This is an amalgamation of interests.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm about to get the minute. Sorry, Jack.
No, you're fine. And I'm watching the time. I'm letting you go a little longer, as I will with the other candidates, just because it's a little harder on Zoom to interrupt, so to speak. And so I'm allowing some leniency.
You can also do this.
Yeah, I can start making faces or whatever. So when you live in the county, and if you buy a vehicle, let's say out of the marketplace, whether it's Albuquerque, Denver, Farmington, wherever, when you register that vehicle, you actually save 2% when you register the vehicle, because there's no use fee or use tax. Are you in favor, for, or against a use tax for vehicles?
It's hard to answer yay or nay, but I am against it, and I'll tell you why. It is not because I'm against the concept. It's that we have some significant revenue issues going on in the county. That's another one of your questions. Some people call those revenue issues a crisis, some people don't. But the fact is that that's already been tried once and voters didn't go for it. I get the need for it, I really do. But I think we have some very pressing revenue issues in our road and bridge fund. We have a structural deficit, and I was on the fiscal needs committee in 15, and I'm sure we can look at different ways to look at a use tax like that, whether it's on construction goods or cars or whatever. And it doesn't raise a lot of money. So the concept I like. I don't like that you can drive down to New Mexico and get a car and save 2%. That doesn't seem fair. But we probably have, because given that taxes aren't very popular with La Plata County voters, we probably don't have too many times to go to the ballot. And I'd rather go to the ballot with something that is broader and not go to the ballot now. Now is not a good time at all with COVID stabilization recovery. Okay, oh, thank you, that helps a lot. So anyway, those out there, if there's folks in the car industry out there, I get that it's a need, but it's not gonna raise enough money. Where we really need money is the road and bridge fund. It costs about $1 million to go redo a mile.
Okay.
To go very far.
Okay, so, and a follow-up question to that, as we talk about use tax on vehicles, what about a road impact fee? Are you for or against road impact fees?
I am for road impact fees, and the reason is as long as it can be proven that they're fair and equitable and will benefit the people paying them. The reason, and this county's been studying this, I have an entire pack of paper, and they were going to take this up before the, right around the time the moratorium was pulled. They also pulled this off the agenda, and I think we'll be bringing it back up in the fall. The reason I'm for road impact fees is the county roads and bridges are the county's biggest asset. So when you own a house or you own a mountain bike or you own whatever you own, you take care of it. And we need to take better care of them. And that is by no means a commentary on our road and bridge crews. They do great. And I think, in fact, they do so well that I think our roads, they take better care of them with less resources than a lot of road and bridge departments. So I think an impact fee, sometimes what happens to our county roads, somebody said it well, is they can die by a death by 1,000 cuts. So you have one home go in, and then a lot gets split, and you have 2, and then 4, and then 100 homes are on a road, and there's no money to take care of the road per se. So I do think they need to be equitable, and I know we'll need a lot of public hearing on the current proposal, but this is under study by the county, meaning it's being studied, and there is a proposal on the table that would relate to the size of the unit being built. But I am for road impact fees.
Okay, thank you. I think another question I could dovetail into that. So you think, do you think that infrastructure, such as water, sewer, broadband, things of that nature, should be paid for by county or intergovernmental agreements between city and county? Or do you think the developer should bear that cost and pass it on then to the consumer?
I think it depends on what you're talking. That question in your list of questions was related to La Posta. A build out number that somebody gave me, and don't take this to the bank, is about 50 million. We're going to hear more. I'm talking about La Posta now specifically. We are going to hear more about that this week with the sewer study. I think it's again back to the PPP, the public-private partnership. I would not be opposed under the right circumstances and with a nexus of public benefit of having the county assist with building out in areas where we're going to get some public benefit back. That public benefit being housing, that public benefit being a light industrial park. Now the county is not flush with money. So if you're let's just use 50 million. I know that's I think an older number. We'll see this week how the sewer looks. But I think we have to have a partnership here. It's not all the developers. People tell me we don't have that type of developer here that can come in and front that kind of money. Again, maybe in the past we have. So I'm not opposed to the use of public money, but there has to be a benefit coming back. And we can look at tools, urban renewal. I know special districts have been studied for areas like that. And also in the new land use code, there's EDAs. People can nominate themselves for economic development areas, and I support that. So we've got to bring our jobs and economy back. We've been dealt a very bad blow here that nobody asked for, and we have to get creative and work together.
Thank you. So along the line, you mentioned the land use code. It's in its draft form. Do you believe that the public comment should be in person and not via Zoom because of COVID? And since you may be taking the oath in January, would it be better to adopt a code after you are in office?
No, I would like a code in the fall. If I'm elected, I would like my job and the job of my fellow commissioners and planning department to be implementation, tweaking, hearing how it's working. Like everybody, I see there's some other candidates on the call. I've been on every call I can about the code. And it's great because if you missed a meeting or a workshop, you can go back and watch it later. The people that have worked on this code get a double gold star. The planning commissioners, the staff, and the district planning people who did the district plan. So I don't want to delay, but that said, back to the question, the commissioners talked this morning, this is my third Zoom call too, Jack, by the way, talked about finding ways to open up. We don't want an issue as important as this one to be taking public comment only by Zoom. It might mean phasing people in 10 at a time, 10 at a time, 10 at a time, masks. We all want to be safe, but I don't think delaying it till hopefully I'm elected makes any kind of sense. The planning commissioners are very proud of all the work they're doing and have done. There's going to be a robust public process so it can be improved. And I hope everybody listening reads it. I will point out this is what it looks like. And so it's that thick of a document. And, it's not easy to make it through in just a couple of sessions, but we all need to read it And as somebody said yesterday I was talking to, we don't want to bat twice at this. We want to get it right, get it in place. The land use system needs improved.
Thank you. A lot of dynamics, and I do encourage people that need to look at laplatcounty.org, and you can go to the meetings and the agendas, and they do have some training sessions coming up that you can sit in on and some studying and learn more about the county code. And if you have specifics that you want to learn more about, you can go to a specific chapter the way the new code is written. So I highly encourage everybody to study up on that and take part, and let the commissioners and the county folks know, planning department, what your thoughts are. So next question from oil and gas. Senate Bill 19-181 gives local control to oil and gas regulations for siting. Since the current code has provisions already for siting, would you look to rewrite that code, since the state is already rewriting rules for oil and gas operations for protecting health, safety, welfare, and the environment and wildlife, and will be effective in November? Do you see the need for a county staff to rewrite the natural gas land use code?
I'm not sure. Oil and gas is an important industry in our community. And these are really tough, complex issues, how you balance public health, safety, and welfare with production. It's a key player in our community, not to mention, I think it pays something like 25% of our tax base. I'm not ready to answer that yet because the rulemaking on SB 181 is not done, and it's supposed to be done in September. So I think we're gonna have to look at what finally comes out of that rulemaking. One of the last public meetings I went to before COVID hit was a hearing that was held in Durango by the by the commission. So I think we're going to have to take a hard look. As everybody knows, I see a lot of very astute people on the call here. We can't make our regulations weaker than state law. So then the policy question is whether we would want them to be stronger. We already have a set of regulations that I know were hard fought and very controversial in some circles, but we've had them in place for a long time. And I think other counties, we were one of the first. I moved here in '94 and it was really, really heating up then. And we have a set of regulations that I know they're not perfect, but they work. And so I think I'd like to wait to answer that question. If this is something you really care about, please let's wait and see what happens with the state rulemaking.
Thank you. I'm trying to do timer and unmute.
You're multitasking as usual.
Hanging in there. All right, so with the budgets of all governments declining in income, what is your potential solution to balance a budget without raising taxes? So would you consider, and this is yes or no to the following, so yes or no, would you furlough employees?
Yes.
I'll let you come back. Hold on.
Right.
Cut costs with layoffs.
Yes.
Dissolve or consolidate departments.
Let me come back to that one. Potentially, yes. That one's the hard one.
I always laugh because politicians hate yes or no questions that I ask. And the other is cost share with other governments for communications or human resources, road and bridge, or share fleet maintenance.
Absolutely.
Okay. So with all of those, you've said yes to furlough, cut costs with layoffs, dissolve or consolidate departments, and then cost share. So now I'm going to go ahead and give you the 90 seconds to answer and respond to those.
First of all, if we were having this candidate interview, say back in February or January or December, the answers would have been different, probably. We are in an unprecedented time. The county's budget is in a better situation than the city's because it's less reliant on sales tax, but still sales tax is creeping up to be about par with property tax, which is because in large part due to production and revenue from production from 2010 to 2018. So I would not, I think no elected official who believes that county employees or departments are doing a good job in serving the people would want to furlough or lay people off. The city is doing that now, and I think it's quite painful. So, but we are in, again, unprecedented is a word I'll use, a time when we're going to have to make hard decisions. I think it's going to be very important to involve the public, to educate the public and engage the public as we look at our budget. Right now, the county is looking at scenario planning, and I'm paying close attention to that because we don't exactly know yet how COVID is going to impact us over the long run. Again, the county hasn't been as impacted as the city has been, but I'm guessing or predicting, while I don't have a crystal ball, that next year will be a tight year. And so you have to leave all these tools on the table. The consolidation of departments is, every department is very different. You can't consolidate planning and human services. So that one's a tougher one. That would take, I think, the county staff and department heads bringing back proposals. Thank you.
That works for you?
I got that. Thank you.
Be my old TV days. Stretch it out, wrap it up, cut. All right. You're doing great. Thank you. Next question. Colorado's economy has grown rapidly in recent years, fueled by a strong job market and an inevitable quality of life that defines the whole Colorado experience. We have seen ballot proposals to limit growth appear on statewide elections in local communities that would place arbitrary limits on growth that could cripple future economic prosperity and create new growth burdens on the already low inventory of housing available to Colorado consumers. So what's your position? You support limited growth initiatives?
I do tell you why. First of all, what I do support is minimizing sprawl. I support the values in our new code, our draft code, and where they exist in the L+ system to protect the values that make this place special. I won't name any towns because I'll probably offend somebody, but sometimes I drive through places, especially on the Front Range, and they are unrecognizable and become places that don't quite have the specialness that we have. So we need to protect those things, whether it's our wildlife corridors, our riparian areas, open space, and all of that, and do that in a way that is collaborative with people. But I don't think growth, and I took that to mean an extreme form of growth management, which would be limiting building permits, limiting population growth, which I think would be impossible, or limiting, how big do we want to grow to? I don't think it works. Places like Boulder and Aspen, I love to visit those places better than anybody and go on a little vacation every now and then, but they become enclaves for the very, very, very wealthy, and the common person, the teacher, the sheriff's deputy, the worker cannot live there. And then that creates more pollution and more commuting because you're having to live an hour away. Aspen is, people live in Rifle and work in Aspen. So I don't think that makes any sense. But that said, I think good land use planning means that we can grow our businesses, grow our economic sectors, but do it in a smart way. But I don't think it makes sense to put a lid on things, and I don't think it works.
Great, thank you. So when we keep talking about the land use code and the county working on that right now, about a month and a half ago, there was a moratorium that was going to be attached to the land use code. Our Legislative Affairs Coalition, consisting of Durango Area Association of Realtors, Chamber, Home Builders Association, and Energy Council, came out strongly opposing this. So are you for or against a moratorium associated with the land use code?
I'm against it. COVID. Again, we're not living in normal times. And so it's very standard for counties when and everybody needs to remember the code was brought in-house when it was rolled out in 18. It wasn't rolled out in the greatest way, I shall say. And I think something like 1,000 people showed up at the fairgrounds, frustrated, mad, angry. And so what happened is the code was brought in-house and is being done by staff, which which has created a lot of work. So I got the intent behind the moratorium, but I thought it was bad optics and I didn't agree with it. And I'm glad they pulled it. We're not in a time that we need to be sending that message to businesses. And one huge economic development strategy is to grow businesses that are here.
Thank you. Sorry, Emily Meisner with the Economic Alliance, they're in our building. She just was asking me a question. Sorry about that. I had to look over and give her the thumbs up. So
you're
sorry about that.
Multitasking, Jack, like always.
Yeah. Oops, dropped them again. So next question is, would you support legislation or an initiative that would create additional taxes or fees on the sale of real estate?
I'm going to arc back to, first of all, I don't believe there is any, I called a realtor contact of mine yesterday. I don't think there is anything on the horizon. There was a couple of years ago around a documentary fee that was being proposed, but it actually ended up affecting local government's TABOR limits. I don't think we should take any tool off the table. If that were to be proposed, we would want to have really good conversations with the realtor community and with the home builder community, as well as what would the purpose be. Typically, probably, I know these have been proposed for affordable housing. So I think that's where we go back to needing a county-wide strategy that involves the business community, involves the nonprofits and the governments. And if it looks like there's support for that and wouldn't put people out of business or create a big burden on real estate sales, or especially on the people buying real estate. So I don't think we should take it off the table. It's not something that's like a burning issue right now for me. I think also, remember, we belong to CCI. I'm glad the county was able to have money this year to belong back in CCI, Colorado Counties Inc., as well as counties and commissioners acting together. So that's where you'd want to really be talking with other counties. But it's not in my platform, but if it were targeted and there could be support for it, I think all these ideas can always be talked about. But I kind of sense some concern of that kind of question, and I get that concern as well.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you, what question would you like to answer that we have not asked?
Well, where are my notes? Good one. Let me see. I think I'd like to go back to La Posta Road and the funding of how we're going to crack that nut. I think it's one of the key issues that the city and the county and the Economic Development Alliance face. I do think it's going to have to be a partnership, and I think that we have to somehow cut through. I think there's something like 4 or 5 plans on the table down there, including being in a joint planning area. I think we as commissioners and the city councilors and the La Plata Economic Development Alliance, the Animas Air Park, we should all lock ourselves in a room for a couple days and just see how to, and I don't say all of that in a glib way. These are complex things, not to mention what private property owners want to do with their own land is very important. One question was whether I would support annexation. Again, let's not take it off the table, but the landowners would have to agree to that. It seems like incrementalism and being pragmatic, which I am, comes into play here. The La Posta Road area is really huge. So where are the areas that might make sense to start getting some more light industrial manufacturing housing, and then kind of work our way down? Do I want to see it go all the way down, high density, down to the bridge? No. There's also residences there that move down to that area because it's a little bit more quiet. So there's a lot of interest. There's archaeology, there's a riparian area. That's where my facilitation of natural resources for the last 10 years can come in handy in terms, I know I wouldn't facilitate the process, but understanding it. So I think that's an area that we all ought to put very high on our radar screens, in addition to areas in Bayfield and Ignacio or on the west side of La Plata County that may want to have some economic development.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
along that line, while you were talking about that, I thought of a question. There's a lot of larger subdivisions. I know there's one on 172 right now being proposed, up to 181 houses, and it's right by Southwest Horizons. There's also a trailer park right in that same area that's being considered for maybe, I think it's up to 25 on up to original with 72 mobile home units put in out there. However, there's no water. There's groundwater, no water. What are your thoughts about projects that don't have a reliable water source?
Well, we actually have policy on that. So in the last 6 months, and forgive me, I lose track of time sometimes being a candidate. I think the other candidates on this call will kind of get that, plus pandemic. But we now have policy in place that ensures a subdivision has to prove water. And that was, forgive the pun, a watershed moment when that was passed, so that you don't get stuck with a subdivision that all of a sudden people build and invest their life savings, and then they find out their water source is going dry. So it was a very arduous process and went through a lot of public, so I support that. Water is precious. I have done a lot of work in my facilitation, including on Hermosa Creek, but many other stakeholder processes around the issue of water. And you quickly learn what you don't know. But you can't go in as a developer and not have a good water source for the people who are going to be buying that product. And we also have a water system now going out, the La Plata, and we have one on the west too. And so that is going to bring water to people who formerly had to haul water or did not have a reliable source. That, of course, relates directly then to land use planning of where is that water development going to facilitate growth.
Thank you. So a question that came up in the chat is, let's see, all right, my involvement, full Democrat, let me get to the question. So our county is 30% Republican, 40% Independent, 30% Democrat. How do you plan to be inclusive of all viewpoints that aren't specifically of the Democratic Party, particularly when the county overall is so polarized with the two-party system? This trickles, as you said, into a local level. Is it possible, and how will you bridge that gap if there are, again, all Democrats on the commission representing our county?
I think that's a good question and a fair question. I'm a professional meeting facilitator with a lot of experience working with different people that come to meetings. I don't always know what their party is, but very conservative people, very liberal people, very people who are all down the middle. The notion that the parties run our commission is not right. It's not accurate. You can talk to Commissioner Westendorf, you can talk to any of the commissioners, including former Commissioner Brad Blake. Just because someone belongs to a party does not mean that the party dictates the way they will make decisions. By and large, the commissioners are nonpartisan jobs, and if I am elected, I will keep it that way. I am a Democrat because I don't agree with all my fellow Democrats on everything, for sure. I am a moderate, and I believe in looking at all sides. I believe in good jobs and all the things that make our community good. So I don't agree with the notion that somebody from a party would only listen to their party. I think you quickly would realize on day one that you're going to get calls from Tiffany and Allison and Arbalese and people that live all over. Also, bear in mind, just because somebody lives in the rural part of our county, they can be any party. And I think we ought to talk less about party and talk about what our ideas for the future. But I will listen to everybody. Look, I grew up on a ranch. Half my family is Republican. And we have very, very good discussions. And you have to serve everybody. And I believe part of the job as a commissioner is having an office out of your car and getting out a lot to the areas where you don't live, so you can understand what people's concerns are.
Thank you. And another question that came up, what is your stance on the emergency management and building the emergency management program, taking it to the next level on behalf of La Plata County?
That's a good question. With climate change, we can argue all day about what causes climate change, but it's fully here. And we are going to see more droughts, which means more wildfire and more flooding in the areas. So one of the field trips I do, I love field trips. I got out and toured some of the projects happening up in the Hermosa area as part of the watershed plan up there. And I interviewed Butch Norton last week. He has been an iconic public servant, and appreciate all he and the people in emergency management. But we have to take it, we have to be really vigilant. You know, he worries greatly about floods coming off that burn scar in Hermosa Creek. And I know the people in Missionary Ridge and up by Cito did well. So it's a huge area for me. I was the first coordinator of Firewise Southwest Colorado. That doesn't make me an expert in emergency management, but I spent a lot of time, and we started the ambassador program to get people to mobilize their neighborhoods. And doesn't mean they had to be experts, but to link to experts. So I'm very sensitive to this issue. I have a detailed platform on my website. I don't talk in generalities or just platitudes, so I've put some details out there. And supporting programs doing mitigation is very important. Continuing to finish all the work up in the Hermosa area and getting a permanent weather radar station somewhere. I know that's funded, but now we need to get a location so that we can predict specifically summer rainstorms. It's a hugely important area that impacts almost all of us.
Yeah. Great, thank you. So believe it or not, I pretty much have gotten through all my questions, and we've got about 10 minutes left. So with that, I'm going to let you do your closing remarks. We'll give you the 3 minutes for that. And again, I just want to thank you on behalf of the everybody participating, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce and the community. Thank you for running for the county commissioner position, because I always say, I think, people are crazy when they're in public office. People have asked me, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. So thank you sincerely for taking on this role. So with that, Marsha, I'm going to turn it over to you and give you 3 minutes for your closing remarks. And again, thank you for your time. And a reminder, sorry, I'm not going to give it to you yet. A reminder, you can go to durangobusiness.org and register for the other upcoming series. Jack Turner is on Thursday the 11th from 11 to 12. Charlie Minkler is on the 16th from 1 to 2. And Matt Salka on the 18th from 11 to 12. So now I will let you have your closing remarks. Thank you, Marsha.
First of all, I really want to thank the Chamber. Jack and I were talking before we started. These have been such difficult times for our businesses. The community has come together in an incredible way with the Economic Recovery Task Force, and I'm impressed. And the way that you've adapted and worked with the Community Foundation and businesses is impressive. We are in some rough rapids ahead, folks. I don't have to tell you that, especially if you're out there in a business. We are going to have challenges around continuing to stabilize from this global pandemic that has hit our community, thankfully, because a lot of us have done the right thing. It hasn't hit us as hard as other communities. But I think COVID is going to be with us well into 21 until we can find a way to be safer through a vaccine and other measures. So we've got that. Yes, we have big challenges with the budget, and we're going to have 70,000 people living here in 9.5 years, according to the state demographer. That office is not usually wrong. Where are they going to live? What kind of services are we going to offer to them? What kind of law enforcement? What kind of land use code? These are big challenges. I am a proven leader, and I don't say that to say I have all the answers. I don't, but we find them together. The things I will work on as I see interchangeable, it's called Healthy Pocketbook, Healthy People, and Healthy Place. First of all, with our Healthy Pocketbook, we talked about a lot of these things on the call. The county needs to put a land use system in place that doesn't mean somebody has to spend $200,000 to get to a no. Now, if it's not compatible or it's going to ruin a bunch of values that we care about, maybe it's not a good idea. But we need to make the land use system easier. And again, I applaud everybody down to the district level folks who have worked on the new code. And I hope we have a very robust public process. Secondly, I want to be involved on committees, whether it's Region 9 or the Alliance. I care a lot about economic development. I've done a lot of facilitation in that area. And I think good jobs that pay well and bring good wages to our community are some of the best way we can help people's lives. So economic development's not a talking point for me. I believe in it. I've benefited from it. My husband and I are business owners. I will call for an affordable housing plan, and I don't want it to be just my idea. I want everybody out there to put your thinking caps on, email me how we could have a countywide affordable housing plan that celebrates what's already happening, but looks at new tools. What's Summit County doing? What is, let's look at like-minded communities and get more units built and continue the good work already happening, housing solutions, the homes fund, all of it. We have to work on broadband as a priority. Again, I'm not gonna sit here and recite all the technicalities to you because I won't be able to do that. We need excellent county services, and that means looking at all options around revenue, and also, as we talked about earlier, cutting potentially, but also we've got to take care of our roads and bridges and provide the kind of services that a growing county to 70,000 people deserves. Finally, I care about the values such as taking care of our air and water and standing up for our public lands. As you said, taking care of emergency management in the face of fires and floods. I think I'm the best person for this job. I have been preparing for this job for a long time. I have a proven track record. I will listen to everybody. I grew up on a ranch. I get the rural perspective. While I live in Durango. But I want to listen to everybody, and I will work with my fellow electeds and everybody involved in the county and the community, including the business community, to find solutions that we can work on together.
All right. Well, Marsha, thank you for your time. I appreciate everybody's attendance. I think it's important to get to know all the candidates. So again, thank you. And thank you for going first. I didn't even, you didn't even have to draw a short straw. I just made you. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jack. Thank you, Rita, for setting it up. And thank you for everybody for listening. My website is my name, MarshaPorterNorton.com. My number is 403-5680. I want to hear your ideas. Read my platform. I think I'm the only candidate that has put out more details at this stage of the game. And I look forward to a time that we can have in-person forums and debates.
Great. Again, thank you. And everybody, have a great day. And with that, we will wrap up the meeting. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.